like Gary Gensler, the game that they played is that under the pretense of consumer protection, they attacked every single effort to democratize our financial markets, and that is over. America. I grew up in a working class family. I believe that America is a place where anyone should be able to make a fortune, no matter where you grew up, what degree you may or may not have. And in recent years, I'm hard-pressed to think of a better place to do so than right here in the digital assets industry. Now, our second substantive step is we're trying to create a clear, pro-growth legal framework for stablecoins in this country. And I know we've got some solid allies in Congress. Is Cynthia Loomis out there today, or did she already go home? Well, you know, I was supposed to have dinner last night with Cynthia Loomis. We had a little event yesterday, and I looked around, I said, where the hell is Cynthia Loomis? And somebody said, well, she's got a dinner she had to go to. And I said, I'm the vice president. Unless she's having dinner with the president, Cynthia does not have an excuse to skip this event. But we love Cynthia, and I know that she's one of the great advocates for your industry in the United States Congress. Now, I know, led by Cynthia and other great legislators, Congress is hard at work getting the Genius Act passed and across the president's desk as quickly as possible. And that's an important step. It's with good reason, because regulatory uncertainty in this country has pushed way too much stablecoin activity overseas over the last few years. Now, somebody said to me yesterday that Bitcoin has done so much over the last few years with so many headwinds. Wouldn't it be nice to have a government that provided some tailwinds to one of the fastest growing industries in our country? And that's what we aim to do. And once the Genius Act is enacted, it's poised to vastly expand the use of stablecoins as a digital payment system for millions of our fellow Americans. It'll also protect coin holders and inject further transparency into the market. And let me be emphatic on one other point. In this administration, we do not think that stablecoins threaten the integrity of the United States dollar. Quite the opposite. In fact, we view them as a force multiplier of our economic might. Dollar-pegged stablecoins, particularly once Genius is enacted, is only going to help the American economy, and it's only going to help the American dollar. So, again, we're optimistic that the Senate is able to move quickly on passing a clean Genius Act, and for the House to follow up and do the same. And of course, once that happens, our great President Trump will sign it into law the minute it comes across his desk. Now, when that's happened, when the administration will then fully shift to our third priority, which is to enact a transparent and tailored regulatory framework for digital assets. One that's pro-innovation and fully incorporates crypto into the mainstream economy. And again, I've talked to so many of you over the last couple of days, and the consistent fear that I hear with all the great things that have happened over the last couple of months, the consistent fear that I hear is that there's still this perception that digital assets are not welcome in the mainstream economy, and let me promise you that our effort to change the policy is purely about changing that. We want our fellow Americans to know that crypto and digital assets, and particularly Bitcoin, are part of the mainstream economy and are here to stay. Talking about genuine, ground-up innovation, one that's already improving the well-being of tens of millions of our fellow citizens. I believe it's 50 million Americans own Bitcoin, and I believe that's going to be 100 million before too long. But it's not just about Bitcoin and about the value that's been generated, the wealth that's been generated by so many millions of our fellow citizens. Through decentralized finance, crypto has transformed how Americans transact with one another. It's expanded access to banking for many who may not otherwise have had it. And every single day, I feel like I see some groundbreaking new use of blockchain tech, whether it's in supply chain management, whether it's in hospitals, or whether it's in changing how we track and store patients' private health records. But for each of these new forward-looking applications, I also feel like there's an incredibly conservative element to crypto technology, and that's as a hedge. Crypto is a hedge against bad policymaking from Washington, no matter what party is in control. It's a hedge against skyrocketing inflation, which has eroded the real savings rate of Americans over the last 4 years. And as you all know well, it's a hedge against a private sector that's increasingly willing to discriminate against consumers on the basis of their basic beliefs, including their politics. That includes, of course, debanking users for Second Amendment advocacy or for ties to the first Trump administration. In Canada, the government did the same to kill those big truck driver protests in 2022. Less than a week later, they succeeded. The protests were over. But maybe most importantly, I see crypto as a hedge against one of the most dangerous trends in the digital era in both the public and private sectors. And that's of elites who, rather than innovate themselves, prefer to simply take over and co-opt cutting-edge technologies to assert their control over other people. But as you know, there's a new sheriff in town because after 4 years of mistreatment and outright hostility led by Democrat regulators, lawmakers in this country have a choice. Will we lead our nation into a future of financial sovereignty, of innovation, and of prosperity, or will we let unelected bureaucrats and foreign competitors write the rules for us? And I'm here today to say loud and clear, with President Trump, crypto finally has a champion and an ally in the White House. In our administration, we understand the full potential of the digital assets industry, not just as an investment, not just as a flashy technology, but as a symbol and driver of personal liberty for all our citizens. And we are dedicated to seeing that promise fulfilled. The way that we see it, the people in this room are the digital pioneers of the American economy. And that's why our administration is doing something a little unusual in Washington. We're listening to all of you as you blaze the trail of innovation. The innovators in this room are making people's lives better. You're pushing boundaries and solving problems, injecting unprecedented transparency into how we do commerce. And the way we see it, you all deserve a similar level of transparency and clarity. And most of all, you deserve respect and support from your government, not bureaucrats trying to tear you down. Now that means a few substantive concrete steps. And of course, the first and most important of those steps is straightforward. We've got to clean up the wreckage that the last administration left us. And since day one, that is exactly what we've been trying to do. Our administration, we prioritize eliminating the rules, the red tape, and the lawfare that we saw aimed at crypto by our predecessors. We're ending the weaponization of federal regulations against this community. To put it simply, Operation Choke Point 2.0 is dead, and it's not coming back under the Trump administration.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. Also, go like and follow the TikTok. More videos to come. And we have J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States at the Bitcoin Conference, giving one of the best Hegelian dialectic speeches I've heard in a long time. This was up there with Obama and Bill Clinton, speaking about the power of this technology, but also talking about the last administration doing the Choke Point 2.0. But we know why they did it. They wanted to kick that regulation can down the road. And he talks about stable coins are the foundation of this new payment system. And crypto will be a part of this current financial system. Plus, crypto and AI needs to work together. And we know crypto is for AI. These stable coins are going to allow the dollar to keep some of its power. It's going to lose that world reserve currency title, but it's still going to hold some power. And then also, when it comes to AI, these robots, algorithms, and drones are going to use these digital assets and be able to run this economy without a human involved. And remember, the crypto teacher tells you.
The idea of using the regulatory power of the government to crush an industry and to crush people who espoused a view that you didn't like, it's crazy. But let my words today serve as Operation Choke Point. Let me serve as its obituary. Now this is my vow to every single person here. You will never see this administration trying to handicap your community or diminish the impact it's had on the economy. Instead, we reject the Biden administration's legacy of death by 1,000 enforcement actions. We reject regulators. Maybe the most important thing that we did for this community, we reject regulators and we fired Gary Gensler, and we're going to fire everybody like him. Prosperous because we made bad decisions today. We're going to make the right decisions, but that depends on you guys being part of the conversation. So be part of that conversation. And here's the third thought that I want to leave you with. You know, one of the ways you hear this stated is that crypto is fundamentally a conservative or right-leaning technology, and artificial intelligence is fundamentally a left-leaning or a communist technology. Now, I think that overstates things a little bit in both directions, but there's a fundamental element of truth to it. Now, I haven't been involved in the day-to-day operations of a technology company in about 4 years since I entered politics for the very first time. But what I've noticed is that very smart right-wing people in tech tend to be attracted to Bitcoin and crypto, and very smart left-leaning people in tech tend to be more attracted to AI. Again, that's a gross generalization. It's an overstatement, but there's an element of truth to it. But what I'd ask you all is to remember that what happens in AI is very much going to affect, in good and bad ways, what happens to Bitcoin. And of course, what happens to Bitcoin is very much going to affect what happens in AI. So, while this is certainly a Bitcoin conference, and I know we're all proud of what you guys have accomplished over the last 10 years, my final piece of advice is to make sure you're keeping tabs on and staying involved in what's happening with artificial intelligence, because I don't want Bitcoin to be negatively affected by what happens in AI, and most importantly, I don't want America to be negatively affected by what happens in AI. And the best way to ensure that smart people are at the AI conversation is to ensure that Bitcoin is part of the artificial intelligence conversation. Our administration is committed to it. I want you guys to be committed.
We have to talk about society, and when I hear what you can do, when I hear what the robots can do, when I know what Boston Dynamics, YNX, when I see what these companies can do, I wonder, is the CEO of Anthropic going to be right when he talks about a bloodbath of white-collar workers, unemployment spiking 10 to 20%, mass elimination of jobs? Or isn't your vision that productivity, like whether it be the loom, whether it be the canal, whether it be the steam engine, these were all generators of jobs, not retractors of jobs?
It's a generator of jobs. There are surely different views. Let me give you this view.
Okay.
There's a labor shortage between now and the end of the decade that's measured in some 30, 40, 50 million short. If you just translate 50 million people short in labor force and translate that to GDP growth, it's extraordinary. It's approximately about the size of the United States. And so the ability for us to expand what is today a limited and short labor shortage, we around the world should be able to expand our GDP, and that's our future, to be able to, turn these agents, which are essentially workforce robots, information robots, and humanoid robots, physical robots, to expand the world's GDP.
All right.
What do you think will happen at the cross intersection of blockchain and AI?
Yeah. So I think AI is a technology that came after blockchain, right? So we have the internet, we have blockchain, now we have AI. If you think about AI, the currency AI is going to use is not going to be fiat currencies. It's not. They're not going to go through banks. They're not going to swipe a card. They're going to use cryptocurrencies.
As President Trump has directed, we are going to keep the U.S. the dominant reserve currency in the world, and we will use stable coins to do that.
And we have the Fed minutes out, and of course they said they want more clarity. And some of the Fed members talked about unemployment starting to creep up and tariffs. But guys, now we have the Supreme Court blocking the tariffs. So we're going to see what comes out of that. Now, these tariffs, they blocked for a few months. Then we know the Fed is definitely not going to cut rates until this labor market starts to break. And like I stated, that's not until the end of this year, or unless the drums get to beating louder. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And we have the tune is changing for Bitcoin and crypto. All the alphabet boys have come out in favor of crypto, including majority of Congress. So all we need is that one step, and that's regulation. Once we get regulation, we're off to the races. But over these next 5 years, you're not going to recognize the world that we live in now. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, the robots, algorithms, and drones are about to take this economy over, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep are going inside the metaverse. Why? Because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Officials said current monetary policy was moderately restrictive, allowing the committee to take a more cautious approach until the effects of government policies were more clear. The committee said they were well positioned to wait for more clarity on inflation and economic outlooks. The risk for higher inflation and higher unemployment both had risen. And remember, this meeting came before the May 12th relaxation of those China tariffs. Almost all participants were concerned about more persistent inflation from the tariffs, and also they were concerned about the difficult trade-off if inflation was persistent and you had weaker growth. On the issue of weaker growth, the staff saw weaker growth in 2025 and 2026. The Fed said ultimately the effects of changing government policy and impact to the economy were highly uncertain. That word uncertain comes up quite a bit here. Certainly about the economic outlook, almost all participants noted the risk of inflation could prove more persistent, and they assessed tariffs on intermediate goods could lead to more persistent inflation. Guys, I think I'll leave it there. I'm just looking through more of these headlines. They really amount to the same thing. Some participants saw businesses limit hiring because of the elevated uncertainty. Several members noted downbeat sentiment among manufacturers. A few members commented that retailers were downbeat due to perceived tariff impact. But I guess what we don't know is how much the world has changed since May 12th. Then the threat of the European tariffs put on, taken off. I think the uncertainty is high, but maybe the immediate danger of tariffs it has abated.
Biden-era guidance that had cautioned 401k plan advisors to exercise extreme care before making that available as a plan option. Our senior personal finance correspondent, Sharon Epperson, joins us now. Sharon, does this mean that crypto is coming to your 401ks?
Well, it's already available in many 401ks, or in some of them. But what it means is that they're pulling back completely on guidance that had been offered by Biden's Labor Department back in 2022, saying that it's important to exercise extreme care with cryptocurrencies because of serious concerns about fraud, theft, and loss. Now they're saying, we're pulling that all back. That's not true. We're going to look at what ERISA says, that is the act that's supposed to protect 401k investors in our retirement savings. There's nothing in there that says that you shouldn't be in crypto. This is what the Trump administration is saying. And so now that kind of opens the door for those who might have been on the fence about having crypto in their 401k plans of adding that as an option.
A couple of questions. So number one, I could see Bitcoin kind of being offered, but if we start to get into some of the altcoins popping up in these plans, are the plan sponsors going to have any concerns? I don't know if they are. I don't know if the according to that. But would they have any sponsors about kind of lawsuits down the road if some of these coins collapse?
Well, certainly there are concerns about that because plan sponsors, employers have to be fiduciaries. They have to put the best interest of the 401k investor ahead of their own. And so in order to do that, they want to make sure that they're offering an investment that is going to work for the plan participants. But there are various ways that they can do that. It doesn't have to be the cryptocurrency outright. It can be an exchange traded fund that invests in crypto. They can also do it through a brokerage window that they may have or self-directed options within a 401k. And then for retirement savers who want to do it on their own, they can do it through individual retirement accounts.
Because it's a slippery slope, I think. It's like you get home, you're like, good news, honey, I put all of our retirement into Kelly Evans coin or Epperson coin, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that comes up and goes down.
Right.
So at some point, somebody's going to have to make a decision. Okay, maybe we'll let Bitcoin into some 401ks, not ours yet.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we're getting there.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
We missed a run.
That's the thing now we're getting into.
Not that I'm counting it home, but somebody's have to make the decision about how far down the line do we go.
Well, even Fidelity, the largest 401k provider, it does in some plans offer exposure to Bitcoin, no more than 20% or so. But it's important to keep in mind that financial advisors who say, yes, this is great to have an alternative asset class. It's very important to make sure that you can benefit from strong returns. But there's some cons to think about, and that's the high volatility and the high risk associated with crypto. So a lot of the financial advisors that I've spoken with that do have crypto in their clients' plans say no more than 2 to 8%. And it really does depend on your time horizon. Morningstar has an analysis out that says if you're going to be in crypto, you need to be in it at least 10 years to see the fluctuations, be able to ride out those fluctuations in the returns and the volatility that's there. Many people who are trading crypto on their own don't see it as a long-term investment. So that's another kind of mind shift that people need to make. If you're going to have it in your 401k, if you're going to opt to have it in that plan, you need to be prepared to hold on to it for at least 10 years or more.
It's really
going to a different economy. And we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. We will, and if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting at more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID 33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.